Hey everyone, this is Thyworm, and today I want to tell you about how I sort my stash tabs. Enjoying less Epoch content? Consider subscribing. This is not a guide and it's not necessarily the best way to organize your stash. However, it has worked very well for me the last week. It gives me a lot of efficiency and it is easy to find stuff. So I'm sharing this with you so you can get some inspiration from it to maybe optimize your stash tabs the way you like them. I'm streaming on twitch.tv/Thyworm, by the way, every Monday, Thursday and Saturday, 8 PM Central European time. So find me there and ask your questions. I'll try and help you out. Let's take a look at the stash tabs. I have bought around 30 stash tabs by now. That is expensive and you might have a lot less, but that doesn't matter. The same principles still apply. I have created 6 categories and the sole purpose of this is to be able to find items quickly, right? The first categories are dump tabs, then sets, idols, uniques, keys and builds. Let me start with dump tabs, which are very important. These are literally tabs that I use to dump decent loot after a run. After I'm running the monolith, I'm not stopping every time to craft or to see if the loot is good or to do whatever. On stream sometimes I do, but when I'm farming myself I loot only decent items, and then when I'm back in the end of time I dump all those items in the dump tabs, hence the name. It is a very common concept within Path of Exile where you're mapping and you get tons of loot. You don't want to waste time, you want to be efficient, at least I do, and it's much more efficient to stick to one activity at a time and not combine a whole lot of things. So I'm either running a lot of the monolith and I'm just dumping loot, or I am sorting out my stash tabs. I currently have 7 dump tabs. I'm filling all of those up when farming the monolith, and then when they are full I take time to sort and clean out my dump tabs, and I use the search functionality for that. What I'm basically doing is making sure that I'm storing good uniques or uniques that rolled well. I'm storing set items, I'm storing keys and good idols, and I put all of them in their own category. I'll get to that soon. Once I've done that, I'm left with only rare items. I then start sorting on item type, so I type ring in the search field. I take out all rings, I look at them and I sort them in my inventory. I have 4 options for rare items. They're either good enough for a build, they're good enough to craft, they're good enough to shatter for affixes, or they're not good and they're just vendor trash. I do my crafting, my shattering, and I end up with affixes and hopefully a few items that are good for builds. I don't aim for gear for specific builds, as that is not very efficient. I would rather just craft generally decent items which I can use in builds. You know by now I don't make min-max builds anyway, but builds that beginners and newcomers can understand and have fun with, while at the same time more experienced people can tweak those builds and get much better gear. The stuff I craft that is fairly decent moves to the build category, and I'll get to that in a bit. And I repeat this process for every item type. The reason I'm sorting on item type is that I know what is good on rings by now, so I only want to look at rings at a time. It is more efficient, and this stuff is all about efficiency, especially now that we don't have a loot filter yet. You really want to minimize the time sorting loot, as it is by far the most boring concept in the game, right? I keep repeating this for all item types. Then I usually have some leftovers that I look at, and in the end I have no more items in my dump tabs. They have all been moved to other categories, or have been turned into affixes, or have been sold. Now, let's take a look at the other categories on how I organize that. The sets category has just one tab because all sets fit in here. Once we get more sets, I'll just buy another tab. This is pretty straightforward, right? The idols category has 8 tabs, 2 for each class. I indicated the classes with an icon and with an abbreviation. A is Acolyte, S is Sentinel, P is Primalist, and M is Mage. The icons also make sense, I think. It helps me navigate. I don't write down the entire names because then it doesn't fit anymore. Tab names get too big and I have to scroll through them, which is very inefficient, and we don't want that. I'm sure you get that by now. So I keep those names short. I divided the idols in vertical and horizontal idols, because once you take one big horizontal idol you can't take a vertical one anymore unless you take the smaller ones. Sometimes you do that, but normally you're taking 4 of the same idols, so this makes a lot of sense. You will also have the different idol effects sorted this way. The uniques category also has very short tab names for the same reason. Now it all fits in one overview. I put jewelry and belts together as those are small items. Apart from that, every type of unique has its own tab. I would say this is pretty straightforward. Keys, that's just keys, you know. And then builds. What I generally not do is make too many tabs for specific builds. The main reason is that the stash system has so many search options, so if I need more glancing glow, I just use the search functionality. It is much more efficient than creating all sorts of tabs for all sorts of potential builds, which you then have to manually fill with items and maintain and remember. Instead, I made a bunch of tabs with generically good items that I can just use the search bar for, and that way I can easily find gear for a damage over time character, or glancing glow, or health stacking, or dodge. I have that stuff crafted from items I find. It is all here and it works perfectly well. If you want to min-max, then this method isn't great, but assuming you just want a solid endgame build and then do the min-maxing on the character itself, then this method works very well. I did make 2 exceptions now because I named 2 specific tabs. A Rip Blood Lich, which I'm filling with spell damage, physical damage, good idols and just overall gear that helps me level this Lich really quickly. The character also doesn't exist yet. Some uniques I'll put in there as well once I have some spare ones. This is a dedicated tab for a character, but I'm limiting this to only a few tabs. I have another idea for a melee necro build, using Harvest to buff your enemies. I'm only having 2 dedicated tabs, because this way I can still keep track. Once I have like 10, it is impossible to maintain them, track them and make sure the right items end up in the right build tab. It will take you a lot of time. And this is really how I have organized my stash tabs. I hope you find it useful. Thanks for watching, guys and girls, and making it to the end. I will see you soon. Bye bye.